it gets squirrely when you say that, like, PBD's an honest actor or Tim Pool's an honest actor. You could have a conversation with them, but you can't have a conversation with Sam Cedar, right?
If you're willing to have a conversation with, again, Glenn Beck, Tim Pool, if you're willing to go on their shows just to be able to shit on the left the entire time and say that, oh, well, these are the respectable areas where people are open to having discourse, and Sam Cedar is openly saying to you, he's like, I will come on your show anytime you want. If you don't want to platform me, you can come on my show anytime you want, and we can just discuss the issues anytime. It'll be friendly, and like, no. The answer is no, because that's not what he's interested in. Kulinski breaks the silence on TYT, just to have something a little more pleasant than talking about mass violence and extremist communities online.
So on the subject of independent media, I'm dying to know your thoughts on TYT and Kasparian. So I'm not going to put you in a place where you have to attack them. But from my perspective, I feel like it's sad to see this because we've all been in this space for a while, and we've seen this 100 times. Dave Rubin, Jimmy Dore, what's his name? Russell Brand, where little by little you start to, you know, you pick one or two issues and then you start buddying up with the right. And I see this with TYT and Anna Kasparian, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
Before I answer that, I'm curious your thoughts on, do you think it's going to go...
You can't answer a question with a question. J'accuse.
Fully in that direction? Like, do you think it's genuinely going to end up like a Jimmy Dore or a Dave Rubin?
By the way, I cracked the code on this one a couple days ago. I figured some things out that I hadn't even thought about before, but it all just started to click after we got the Poly Market scandal. If you were to, say, do an ad read for cryptocurrency in one regard or another, you'd probably get a pretty big backlash from your audience. It wouldn't be devastating or, you know, career ending, you know, and even for the liberals, though, it's a little bit tricky. Like, you know, Pacman took a while to ease his audience into him doing all his cryptocurrency ads. And you remember when Destiny did his NFT thing, like his own audience was roasting the fuck out of him, but not so much that they'll leave, right? But if you are, like, you know, an avowed leftist, an actual leftist, and you run a home of progressives or something like that, one cryptocurrency ad read, fine, people will just mock you a little bit. But if you're going to brand yourself based on a cryptocurrency gambling website, which, you know, it's not just cryptocurrency. I'm not just telling you, hey, by the way, this is brought to you by Coinbase. And if you want to get your cheap cryptos, go to there, blah, 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 get 10% off with my promo code, something like that, right? This is, I'm going to rename the name of our studio to the Poly Market Studio. The backlash would be extremely intense for a leftist show, for a progressive show. Because A, these are two pretty bad things, right? Like, crypto, a little bit skeezy on its own, but whatever, people could tolerate it. Gambling and cryptocurrency gambling, unregulated gambling at that, that's really bad. It's really unhealthy for people. It's really, like, there's a lot of moral issues that come up with something like that. Not to mention the fact that in their frequently asked section, it says that Jank is also going to start doing a weekly let's have fun with Poly Market segment. Like, let's see what the Poly Market you know, markets are saying about this new event, the genocide of Palestinians. So the Poly Market on there, the over under is saying that apparently there's 26 cents put on the yes it will succeed, and there's a, like, you know, that it's gross. It's a really fucked up and profoundly, yeah, if you didn't know, by the way, Poly Market has betting markets on when there's going to be a ceasefire in Gaza, when is the war on Gaza going to end, shit like that. That's the kind of things that you can bet on anything on Poly Market, essentially, and start to make it into a props bet. That's why Poly Market is better than other cryptocurrency gambling markets, right? So if you do that, you're going to get a massive backlash. In the same way that Russell Brand, being kind of like a serial sex offender, pedophile, allegedly, will get a massive backlash from a lot of the left-leaning people in his audience. So he decided, hey, I got to pivot to Rumble. I got to pivot to the right. I got to make sure that I can maintain my audience and stuff like that. So in this case, if you're going to rebrand yourself for the cryptocurrency gambling market, well, then you're also going to need to try and close the losses that you'll get from your audience. You're going to get a huge amount of people who are like, I can't support this. Cryptocurrency gambling is profoundly fucked up. I've been mad at, you know, Trainwreck's XQC when they've done it. Hassan has called them out. Ethan Klein, yes, the pro fucking, yeah, we won't get into that, but like even he's called out the problem with predatory cryptocurrency gambling promotion and how damaging it can be to, you know, younger viewers especially, and how people can lose profoundly amounts of money and all that kind of stuff. So you have to then close that with a large amount of people who are completely fine with that, who's completely fine with that? I mean, if you're going on Glenn Beck, if you're going on Tim Pool's show, if you're going on PBD podcasts, all these kind of places, and you're trying to say, hey, by the way, MAGA, we actually agree on more than I thought. Hey, I've got my 3 rules for the internet. Those 3 rules, if you didn't know them, they're like, we can disagree, but we have to have a beer after, and then we have to find at least one thing that we can work towards. The big new 3 rules for the internet, and that's what I'm doing. I no longer think that Donald Trump is a fascist. I know that I may have campaigned on that exact idea and fundraised on that exact idea, but a few months ago. But don't worry, I'm not doing that now. Now I care a lot about building alliances because it turns out that MAGA are populist. I'm populist. Look at that. You should come watch my show. I'm not as bad or offensive as you thought I was before. I'm not one of those fucking, extremist lefts. We call them the max left over at TYT, okay? We're not the max left. We're not the woke left. We don't care about that kind of stuff. We see you eye to eye. We can find things we agree on how much we can oppress trans people. We'll find a common ground there. Come on over to the home of progressives, sponsored by Polymarket. And so that probably feeds into this whole thing as well. I don't think that there's like that's just 1-to-1. I think obviously there's other things going on, but that was something I hadn't even factored into it, in how egregious it would be taking, like, I'm assuming a multi-million-dollar sponsorship. Like, Hassan said he was offered $1 million just to do one Polymarket ad read during the election. So I am not entirely sure what they would have offered to brand your entire studios as the Polymarket Studios, but I'm guessing it was up there. I'm guessing it was a significant amount of money that could close, again, a financial gap that you might be having otherwise.
Yes, I do. If you asked me this a year ago, I would say probably not. I was in that position where you were in, probably with like Joe Rogan, where it's like, no, I think that you should try to reach these people. I think that maybe there's just a genuine agreement. But to me, with time, it's become apparent that like both Cenk and Anna, they just don't want to listen to good faith criticism. And
oh yeah, and make no mistake, I have absolutely nothing wrong with someone going on Joe Rogan, someone going on one of those shows, not to go there and say, hey, by the way, I was wrong. Trump is a populist and MAGA are populists, and we got to find the things we agree on. No, that's disgusting, and you're debasing yourself, and there's clearly something else going on at that moment. But if you're going on there to be like, Joe, by the way, I got to tell you, the shit that you push to your 11 million fans, it's dangerous and it's wrong, and you've been lying to them, and you've been frequently lying to them. And if it's not anti-vax hysteria that can result in a lot of your listeners becoming sick and or dying, it's targeting vulnerable communities and making trans kids feel scared and unsafe because you're fucking radicalizing a bunch of your dude bros into believing unscientific nonsense. Like those are two completely separate things than going on there and being like, I'm just here to say there's more that we agree on than what we disagree on. MAGA is populist and I am a populist, so maybe we need to find out where we work together. And at the end of the day, I trust that MAGA will not stand by if Trump does a single thing that in any way, shape, or form sways from the real beliefs that MAGA has, which is to support the working class ultimately, right? Like, no, this is all just basically disingenuous bullshit.
We all kind of like talked about this in different ways, like on Leftist Mafia, for example. And what really struck me is how, they just disregarded the arguments that we made. It was not in bad faith, even though they don't want to, acknowledge that. It wasn't in bad faith, but they said it was in bad faith. And for me, I think that moment that really like clicked with me, like, no, it's over, was when they went after Emma Vigeland, because Emma Vigeland, they know her more than they know us. I was part of TYT Network. You were part of TYT Network, but we didn't have that close relationship. I never was at TYT Studio. I think you were only there a couple of times. So like there was that degree of separation between us. But just to see them disregard the criticisms of the left. I mean, we all criticize each other. You and I have had debates like in DMs on Twitter about fucking specific healthcare bills and shit like that. But we never I never thought, oh, Kyle's a fucking grifter. And I don't think you thought the same about me. It was just disagreements that we were hashing out. And even I said something about Wolfpack on my show, and Cenk had reached out to me privately and said, hey, the people at Wolfpack think that you got this wrong. And so I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember what it was in particular, but I brought on one of the directors of Wolfpack on my show to correct the record and talk about Wolfpack. And it's like, it's one of those things where we're all going to eat shit. We're human beings. We don't have massive, production crews. We kind of just get on camera and we say what we think. And so there are going to be times where we trip on our own dicks. We have to eat shit sometimes. And our peers are the best people to hold us accountable. Like if some random YouTube comment says, hey, Mike, fuck you. You said this. You're a terrible, terrible person. I'm going to disregard that. But if Kyle reaches out to me and says, hey, Mike, I think that you really messed up here, that's when I'm going to think, oh, okay, well, if Kyle's saying this, he's been doing this for a long time. I respect him. He respects me.
Luigi is charged with an act of terrorism. I knew they were going to do this. Suspect charged with killing a United Healthcare CEO is an act of terrorism. The man accused of United Healthcare CEO has been charged with murder as an act of terrorism. Prosecutors said Tuesday as they worked to bring him to New York court for the from a Pennsylvania jail. Luigi was already charged with the murder in the December 4 killing of Brian Thompson, but the terror allegation is new. Under New York law, such a charge can be brought when an alleged crime is intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence the policies of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion, and affect the conduct of a unit by governing by murder, assassination, or kidnapping. Yeah, this was a no-brainer that they were going to do that. His lawyer has not commented. Thompson was shot dead as he walked to a Manhattan hotel where Minnesota-based United Healthcare, the United States' biggest medical insurance, was holding an investor conference. This was a frightening, well-planned, targeted murder that was intended to cause shock and attention and intimidation. It occurred and in one of the most bustling parts of our city, threatened the safety of local residents and tourists alike, commuters and business people just starting out their day. After days of intense police searches and publicity, he was spotted in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and was arrested. New York police officials have said Luigi was carrying the gun used to kill Thompson, a passport, and various fake IDs, including one that the suspected shooter was presented to check at a New York hostel. I thought he was carrying a ghost gun, and that the one he'd used was a veterinarian gun. Either way. The 26-year-old was charged with a Pennsylvania gun and forgery offenses and locked up there without bail. His Pennsylvania lawyer has questioned the evidence for the forgery charge and the legal grounding for a gun charge. The attorney has said that he would fight his extradition to New York. Luigi has 2 court hearings scheduled for Thursday in Pennsylvania, including an extradition hearing. Hours after his arrest, the Manhattan District Office filed paperwork charging him with murder and other offenses. The indictment builds on that paperwork. Investigators' working theory is that Luigi, an Ivy League computer science grad from a prominent Maryland family, was propelled by anger at the U.S. healthcare system. A law enforcement bulletin obtained by the Associated Press said that when arrested, he was carrying a handwritten letter that called health insurance companies parasitic and complained about corporate greed. Luigi was repeatedly posted on social media about how spinal surgery last year had eased his chronic back pain, encouraging people with similar conditions to speak up for themselves. If told, they just had to live with it. In a Reddit post late last April, he advised someone with a back problem to seek additional options from surgeons, if necessary, to say the pain was made impossible to work. We live in a capitalist society, he wrote. I found that in the medical industry responds to these keywords far more urgently than you describe it unbearable pain and how impacting your quality of life. He was never a United Healthcare client, according to the insurer. Luigi apparently cut himself off from his family and close friends in recent months. His family reported him missing to San Francisco. Thompson, who grew up in a farm, small town Iowa, was trained as an accountant. A married father with 2 high schoolers. He had worked at a giant United Health group for 20 years and became CEO of its insurance arm in 2021. His killing kindled a fiery outpouring of resentment towards the U.S. health insurance companies as Americans swapped stories online and elsewhere about being denied coverage, left in limbo as doctors and insurers disagreed, and stuck with sizable bills. The shooting also rattled C-suites as wanted posters with other healthcare executives, names and faces appeared on New York streets with an outpouring of online vitriol, prompted police to warn that there could be an elevated threat towards CEOs. The vet gun idea came from a firearm expert watching a blurry video. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I thought from the get-go that they were going to charge him with terrorism.
So that, to me, is why I think TYT might actually just be straight up gone. Because they've tuned out all of the people that were closest to them, that respected them, that they respected, and now it's just right-wingers, Glenn Beck, PBD, and it's not a bad thing to go on these shows at all, you know, going on Temple and whatnot, but it's what you do when you're on these shows, right? Like, you were on PBD.
Aren't they charging that woman who supposedly made the threat over the phone with terrorism too? That's especially wild. That one actually has a happy ending. I don't know if it's because of the outpouring of public outrage, but the police dropped her charges, which is good. She had 0 history of violence, did not own any firearms, was a mother of 3 who was deeply frustrated with the denial of claims to her health insurance provider. And that was a situation where I was like, it seems like if the police go through with this, they're trying to make an example of anybody who even comes remotely close to showing disgust with a predatory health insurance system.
And you criticize them, you challenge them.
Yeah, the whole thing was a debate. The whole thing was a debate.
The entire fucking thing was a debate. Mm-hmm. And this was the same criticism that we had with Jimmy Dore when he started going on Tucker Carlson. Like, I don't care that you go on Tucker Carlson. I'm not trying to like police where you go. You're a grown man. But if I were on Tucker Carlson, I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm going to criticize him for the white supremacy that he's espousing. And I don't see that. I see them going on these shows, attacking the left. And to me, it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's totally it, right? You're going on those shows exactly why they're platforming you on those shows. They want you to be on there to talk about how radical the left has become, how extreme they are, and then to validate their own horrifying beliefs. Because yeah, so we were right, weren't we? Weren't we right? I mean, Tim Pool took it an extra step further when he actually demanded that Cenk like apologize for calling him ugly. Like that was especially funny. The fact that he had to make it about himself. It wasn't enough that Cenk was going to go on a show to talk about, hey, we might have disagreed in the past, but at the end of the day, we can find the things now that we agree on. And I think that MAGA is a populist movement. I'm a populist, so maybe we can all go out and have a beer. It was like, well, I just want to re-invoke the time when I showed with scientific evidence that Republicans and right-wingers are more attractive. It's just a matter of fact. And that you and Anna and your network used that as an opportunity to basically say that I was ugly. So are you going to take that back? What are we going to do here? And then Tim was trying to get Cenk to get him in contact with Crystal because he's really upset that Crystal accused him of being someone who was funded by Russian state-backed funding, and he wanted Crystal to issue an apology. And he's like, so I don't know if you can like DM her or get her on the show or something like that. And then even then that was too far for Cenk. He was just straight up. He was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Look, buddy, come on. I'm here. I'm clearly embarrassing myself to a certain extent. I'm listening to you talk about how upset you are about being called ugly. I think that's about as far as we can go, right? Is this not enough?
I would still be more charitable. A year ago, I'd be more charitable. But I feel like we've seen this show so many times. It's a rerun. And I actually think they're less subtle. Like, I think Anna is less subtle than Dave Rubin's grift at this point in time.
It's almost like they had kind of the opposite reaction as me. So, like, in 2016, it looked to me like they were fully in resistance mode, where it was like,
yeah,
man, we're going to fight on everything. We're going to fight tooth and nail on everything. Fuck Trump in every imaginable way, even to the point where, there were some areas where I disagree with them on like Russiagate type stuff. I was like,
yeah, same.
I don't agree with these particular criticisms that they're making, but it seemed like they were in full on resistance mode, and they maintained that all the way up seemingly until recently. And then the mindset. So in the same way as like I was trying to like find bridges or areas of agreement from 2016 on, and then eventually I realized, shit, this didn't work, and I flipped, and now I'm being super aggressive, and I'm the one that's resisting. And for them, it was resist, resist, resist. And then just recently, it's almost like they just got tired of doing the we're in the resistance, we're gonna fight everything. And now you hear Cenk's big thing is like, we got to unite the populist right and the populist left, and here's this area and that area where we can agree. But what I would say to Cenk in reaction to that is,
that's less Dave Rubin and more Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore has been trying to do that for a long time. He takes it to extremes, right? He's the one who's just straight up like tried to unite the left with the Boogaloo Boys and been like, why, I don't know a lot about them, but the Boogaloo Boys say that they hate the police. So is there not room there to work with? They're saying they hate state power, corruption. I mean, are these not some of the things that we talk about? Is there not an alliance to be formed here?
It's not like they're completely and utterly full of shit. Every single one of them. That's even the, and God bless Bernie. I love him. I don't think Bernie's a sellout by any stretch of the imagination, but his strategy on this has been like, I agree with Trump that we should cap credit card interest rates at 10%. And I agree with Elon Musk and Doge that we need to cut the Pentagon. And he's putting that out there. But here's the thing, Bernie. They're not going to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. They're not going to cut the Pentagon.
No.
And then when they don't do those things, all of those MAGA accounts are going to pretend like they never supported capping credit card interest rates at 10%. They're going to say they never supported cutting the Pentagon, and they're going to go wherever Trump wants them to go, because MAGA is effectively a cult. And so what I would say to Bernie is, I know where your heart is. I know you're trying to do what you think is the right thing and get them in a gotcha and hypocrisy burn them and say, see, they were lying.
I don't even think it's an hypocrisy thing. I think it's just trying to be like, well, I now, like, the reality is that the Republicans control everything. So as they control everything, what is there to work with then? Where are you trying to find, like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, this is a disgusting fucking Christian nationalist regime, but I mean, if there's a couple good things that can come out of it, they are espousing that they want, then maybe we should add a megaphone to that and be like, okay, so if you want this, do it. Get out there and do it. And I agree with Kyle 100% on this issue. They're not going to. And then and this is where I disagree fundamentally with Cenk's proposal that MAGA will not tolerate anything that Trump does that does not enact populist policies. That's just not true. I think a large percentage of them don't know what any of that sentence means. I think a large percentage of them want liberal tiers more than they want anything else. Are there people amongst them who would like to see their conditions and quality of life get better and believe it's going to happen through Trump? Of course. That's one of the reasons why there's, like, you know, moderates or independents or non-political people who will vote for the Republican Party. But for, like, a die-hard MAGA supporter, do you think he's suddenly just going to turn on Trump? Like, Trump got backlash for the whole warp speed vaccine thing, but not in the way that you would think, like, not in the way that some other politicians would have gotten for, you know, suddenly saying that, like, yeah, maybe I should fund a rapid vaccination program.
And et cetera, but they're immune to the hypocrisy burns. And so the real strategy is to upfront say, look, these people are full of shit. They're full of shit. They don't mean a goddamn word of what they say. And I will put in the same category, I'd put, you know, the PBDs of the world and the Tim Pools of the world and the Joe Rogans of the world. Like, do you think Rogan, like, when Trump starts doing objectively horrible shit, do you think Rogan is going to be on his show like, man, I really disagree with this, like he did back in the day? Remember when the child separation policy was happening and Rogan had on Duncan Trussell and he went on like a pro-immigrant rant where he was saying, yeah. And do you think that's going to happen this time around? No. He endorsed the guy who said he wants to do a mass deportation. And if Trump does do a mass deportation, Rogan's either going to say nothing about it or just defend it, right? And so I think that's the point, is like, as we've been saying, there are way more allies who are liberals or who are just independents than there are the populist right. I'm of the belief at this point, the populist right is fake. It's not real. Yep. They will flip on a dime to go where Trump wants them to go. And by the way, I know I'm right about this because, again, we have the first 4 years. I mean, already Trump has axed Lena Khan. Lena Khan was like the example of, oh, if they mean this and they're actually going to be populist, they will keep Lena Khan at the FTC. Yep. And they said, oh, J.D. Vance had said some kind words about Lena Khan. Maybe Trump will keep Lena Khan. And then we learned just last week, he's not keeping her. He's replacing Lena Khan with somebody who says, I want to stop the FTC's war on big business. So how many times do they have to fail this test before we call it for what it is? J.D. Vance pretends like he's a populist. He's not even in favor of raising the minimum wage. He dodged a question on that during the campaign. He's not even in favor of the PRO Act. He said he supports the $6,000 child tax credit, and he didn't show up for the...
But the thing is, I think Cenk and Anna know all this. That's the part where it's just like, I don't think that on any level they're genuine when they say that, like, oh no, I think that the MAGA movement is a populist movement and that they are not going to tolerate anything that Donald Trump does that doesn't fall under the lines of populism. Like, they know. They absolutely know.
Vote on the $6,000 child tax credit, right? So it's just, I'm hoping, like I think a lot of people are, for just when something really bad happens, I'm hoping that there's some sort of an about face, right? And that TYT goes, hey, they didn't do the thing that I thought they might do, so now I'm on the warpath against them too. So I hope that that's the case. But we'll just have to see if that's the case. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to hold my breath on that, because I am notoriously a horrible judge of character on these things, as we already just went through. Like we just discussed the Rogan thing. I gave him credit for way too long. For Jimmy Dore, I gave him credit for way too long. For all these people. But what I would say is this: I really hope that that Cenk or Anna or both, they talk to Sam Cedar, or they talk to
I would love that.
John Iadarola and Francesca Fiorentini, because it really does. They seem to think, as you sort of pointed out, that anybody who disagrees with them on certain issues, it truly is just a grifter and they're a liar. And, whether it's crime issues or trans issues, they seem to think like everybody who's on the left genuinely loves crime, right? I've heard this is something I've heard from them. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I want them to talk to somebody who can rep that counter argument,
Be
who
gay,
they
do
respect
crime.
enough to give them the space to make the argument, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know if they'll do that. I'd be willing to have the conversation with them.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I would have no problem having that conversation with them.
Yeah,
but
because the bridge is burnt for a lot of folks. Like it's burnt between, you know, myself and them. But I mean, like, at least they could speak to Francesca or John or you. Because like, if you think that we're bad faith, that's fine. Because I've taken the gloves off. Like I'm kind of past the whole maybe we can save them. I can fix them. I don't believe that. But for the people who are still on good terms with them, I think that the fact that he's not having that conversation, and Francesca actually just said, I was watching the Vanguard, and they're playing a clip of Francesca where she tried to have a conversation between them and John, and Cenk denied it. So the fact that they're not doing that is so frustrating to me.
Well, yeah, it's this idea. Oh, you know, this is what Cenk's been going around saying now. Like, when we disagree, let's disagree, and then let's like go have a beer after, and then where we agree, let's unite. This is like his big thing that he's going around saying now, and it's like, look, I am.
Kyle's naive or pretending he doesn't understand how the grifters work. I think he's naive because I don't think Kyle knows. Like, it's really easy and transparent and quick to cut through this if you look at how Anna responded to that whole birthing person thing, and she kept like doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on it when it was such an easy thing just to like, here is a 7-month-old video of you. This is you and your words agreeing with our take, being like inclusive language is good, actually, especially when it relates to trans people. This is you in a video calling out a Republican and saying that exact sentence, the sentences that we're saying right now, and you are just going to ignore it. You're going to ignore that clip, or you're going to have to say that your position changed, but instead you're just going to ignore it. Well, then it's very clear that this is something that you are using to be able to be like, I didn't leave the left left me. I mean, my positions haven't changed at all, but they just got radical and extreme. And it feels like there's like a religion, like an orthodoxy, right? As if like, if you step out of line, even a little teeny bit, if you're just like, I want to question this one aspect of the entire whole like trans thing, then all of a sudden, all of them at once will be like, no, you're a Nazi. And they silence you. They prevent you from having discourse. They prevent you from having the free, open marketplace of ideas. And instead, it's just, you know, they have to get rid of anyone who doesn't believe in the groupthink. They get rid of anyone who doesn't believe in the... Like, that part is almost verbatim the Dave Rubin Why I Left the Left PragerU video. If you watch the video, he goes through all these points and he lays it all out where he's like, I used to believe that the left was about tolerance, but then I saw that they were about intolerance, and they don't let you have discussions. If you don't allow people to have the free marketplace of ideas, then that's when authoritarianism rises. And then it's just like, this is the same grift that we're hearing again, because no one who's criticizing either of them was calling them a Nazi. No one who's criticizing either of them was saying, you need to cancel your subscription today. You need to deplatform Anna and Cenk. You need to stop watching TV. No one was saying any of that. Everyone was just sad. It was just a real sad period of time where it's just like, but they're not listening to any of their friends, everyone around them, especially all of their like cis friends who are all telling them, and colleagues who are all telling them, what you are doing effectively is just weaponizing and hurting trans people. These are the same talking points that have been effective for the gender critical movement, for TERFs in the UK, for the policies that are being enacted in Alberta. It's the same kind of talking points. It's the Jesse Singal, I'm just asking questions. Hey, come on. We have to admit that things have gotten too radical and extreme if all of a sudden, like, you're inventing a problem to be mad at, a thing that people aren't actually doing.
Understand that, but it gets squirrely when you say that, like, PBD's an honest actor or Tim Pool's an honest actor. You could have a conversation with them, but you can't have a conversation with Sam Cedar, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Remember Destiny talking about how he has more respect for Nick Fuentes than he does for anyone on the left? That's a very telling statement. To be like, well, at least that guy stands up for his beliefs, all right? I see him on a megaphone standing out days before January 6th saying that we have to take our country back and that this is going to become a Christian fascist nation. I can agree profoundly with his actual beliefs and what he's espousing, but at least he stands by them. You know, unlike any of the lefties. The lefties don't stand by any of their beliefs. They're just basically saying whatever the other people say and they think they need to say to virtue signal to one another and all this kind of shit. If you're willing to have a conversation with, again, Glenn Beck, Tim Pool, fucking the Penis Balls Dick podcast, if you're willing to go on their shows just to be able to shit on the left the entire time and say that, oh, well, these are the respectable areas where people are open to having discourse, and Sam Cedar is openly saying to you, he's like, I will come on your show anytime you want. If you don't want to platform me, you can come on my show anytime you want, and we can just discuss the issues. I have zero interest in talking about drama, zero interest in discussing and revealing tea about each other or background stories. We can just talk about the issues you have profound disagreements with me, whether that happened to be, your belief of the rise in Venezuelan gang crime, them taking over houses, your belief in the fact that there is a radical trans orthodoxy on the left, or just orthodoxy in general that we all adhere to. Whatever it is, I will discuss that with you. The issues, anytime. It'll be friendly, and like, no. The answer is no, because that's not what he's interested in.
That's what is.
I mean, that
so
just seems,
frustrating to
and
me.
you know, Cenk and Hassan did that thing on Thanksgiving, and I don't know, it just seemed like it was sort of like hitting a brick wall a little bit, right? Like, it seems like there's an impasse, and I think the point is, like,
well, I think that was also a marketing opportunity for Cenk, because you could tell right away Hassan was caught off guard. He's sitting there, and then he's like, all right, so what are we going to discuss? Thinking it was going to be a variety of topics, and immediately Cenk is like, well, let's talk about what everyone wants, the trans question. And then he was like, wait, what the fuck? And then immediately went into, like, Sam Cedar and that scumbag, the Serfs, all of them calling me Nazi, 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 saying that you don't believe in the Chinese giving trans operations, and then Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. Oh, they're all fucking scum, grifters, all of that. Like, Hassan is just there, he's like, okay, whoa, you have pivoted completely into your own personal grievances with a bunch of other content creators in this space. Like, this is not what I was expecting us to just talk about. And, like, he just let him, like, obviously it's his uncle, right? He just let him rage scream for fucking a really long period of time before he was eventually like, okay, so we need to get to the issues, you know? We need to actually talk about some things.
if
Nazi, Nazi, Nazi,
if
and they
all
say
of
they're
your
the true
passion
left. Don't
comes
want
out
true
and
left.
you get really, like, fiery and riled up, just when it's those little areas of disagreement with the left, I think that's why a lot of people are like, I don't know if I like this, because that sort of, like, fiery anger and passion where, like, you're really about it. In a moment like this, all of that anger really should be targeted at the right, who Trump just won the White House. They got the Senate, they got the House. This whole Doge thing is just literal billionaire robber barons who are going to loot the treasury and, you know, cut your grandma's Social Security and Medicare. And it's like, we really do need to be harping away on this and going after these people, because it's about to get really ugly really, really quickly. And we really need both, basically, any.
I couldn't agree with this take more. And honestly, it's one of those things where, like, everyone on the left disagrees with each other on the left all the fucking time, either online or content creators. Like, I've said multiple times, I don't really see a benefit to the entire Breaking Points format when so much of it seems to be just, you know, Sagar trying to justify a lot of his right-wing beliefs, and then he never learns anything from Crystal. Crystal will be in the most respectful tone towards him and explain things in a very fact-based, well, that's just not true. If you look at the statistics, well, that's just not true. If you look at the study, well, that's just not true if you do that. And then he always responds with, I gotta be honest with you. Some people are saying that this is what's happening, and we gotta be honest, that's kind of what it looks like. And it's like, okay, well then what is the benefit of this outside of the fact that this appeals to a certain demographic of people who like watching this show? But I don't see growth. I don't see a good faith discussion happening between the left and the right here in this format template that everyone loves to watch all the time, because I feel it's just like, for the right wingers, a circle jerk for them to laugh at a lefty and a right winger who just won't accept their radical beliefs. So I don't see a benefit to that. But I've never once said that I'm calling for the deplatforming of Crystal, or I think that she shouldn't be listened to, or I think that she doesn't have good takes, or I think that she doesn't fight for a lot of the same causes. I would never do that. I would do that only if she just started to do an Anna or a Jank style 180, where out of nowhere she was like, we got to be honest with ourselves. I think at this point we've let the entire whole trans ideology go too far, and that we need to take a step back and actually look at some of these studies coming out of Europe that are really scary. Or if she was suddenly like, well, I mean, I got to really take a hard look at the left and be like, honestly, some of the left is just okay with violent crime because they're scared of being called racist. And because they're afraid of being called racist by their peers, they're totally fine justifying this really scary story of this immigrant who stabbed a guy in the balls 57 times. And I personally, I don't think that's a good thing. I don't know about you, but like, I think it's bad to stab a guy in the ball 57 times. And apparently the left thinks that I'm a racist for saying that, but I'm not. Like, if she was doing that, then of course I would be like, oh, she's doing the right-wing grift right now. Look at this, blah, blah, blah. That's so different than just having like a good faith disagreement on an aspect of either how you conduct yourself or a policy position or something like that, where like goddamn, if you watch the leftist mafia, sometimes we just break out in arguing with each other because all of us are like on the other side of an issue on how we think is the best way. Our hearts are on the same place. We all want to get to the same road and the same finish line, but we have radically different versions of how to get there, and then we'll just start arguing with each other. I don't leave that being like, God damn, I really hate Mike. I really hate David. What the fuck? How could David say that? Man, those guys are grifters. The left is tearing itself apart. That's so different than having someone using their entire platform to be like, you know what, as the home of progressives and as the only true left, I gotta say, the left have lost their minds. I gotta say, the left, honestly, they're out of control, and maybe it makes more sense to start saying the right, they know what they're doing. They're populist. They want to do some of the same things I want to do. Is that so wrong to want to get some results finally? You know,
anybody who's anywhere
it's Mike
left
versus
of
everyone.
center
Sometimes I
to
know.
unite and all be in unison and all hammer away. This was the brilliance of Fox News and the right-wing media sphere, is like, so they'll have their stories for the day or the week and their talking points, and like every outlet under the sun will repeat it till the cows come home, and then they drive the narrative. They drive the entire political narrative in the country. And that's what the left is missing. That's what liberals and leftists are missing, is just in unison a media apparatus that's all harping away on the same things and steering the narrative.
Interesting. I agree with Kyle's points. He made very good points. They are true. I bet you already drink coffee and love coffee, but you're probably worried if your coffee has blood in it. Not literal blood, but conflict zone blood. Did you want to buy coffee that is not only going to be delicious, it's going to arrive right on your door, it helps a little bit fund the serfs, and also it's end-to-end indigenous owned. That's why I partnered with Solstice Coffee, and hey, if you order by going to serfscoffee.com, they even include a free sticker, which is pretty awesome. So there's really no reason to actually not replace the coffee you already drink with delicious ethical coffee. That's why you should check out serfscoffee.com.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/theserfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincel, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.